Inside every brain, there are thousands of neurons creating hundreds of trillions of synaptic connections, like a living galaxy of communication lines happening in the brain all the time. There are tiny sparks bouncing information to and fro through intricate spiderweb like pathways. If we could see it with our naked eyes, I imagine that it would probably look something like beautiful, shimmering chaos. But it's not chaos. Nature knows exactly what it's doing. This entire network, this galaxy of communication lines in our brains, is constantly learning, pruning, strengthening, rerouting. It's firing and wiring together information to help our bodies function, regulate, reconnect, and continue to evolve and to return to a sense of internal homeostasis. And one of the biggest directors of this internal wiring is emotion, especially the emotions that we feel repeatedly or really intensely. So here's the part that most people don't realize. We can actually influence the way these synapses fire and wire, the way they are communicating within our brains and with our systems. It's not through force. It's not through control or manipulation. It's through emotion and repetition. Intentional, elevated emotion and gentle, purposeful, meaningful repetition. As we begin that process, it can feel like it is so hard. This is where that saying, old habits die hard, can come in, because we are wanting to rewire our brain, to reorient these synaptic connections in a way that helps us feel more of what we want to feel and less overwhelmed by the emotions that can sometimes feel like they're sweeping us off our feet or consuming our minds and lives. Creating a new emotional and behavioral pattern can feel like trying to clear a path through a really dense forest using only a small shovel. It's slow, it's effortful, it's unfamiliar, and it can often feel lonely and isolating. However, the emotions that we intentionally choose to connect with on purpose over and over again actually are helping us to create these new pathways in our brains to begin to clear through some of the dense forest. So if this kind of practice is new for you or different for you, it can feel more challenging in the beginning, but there is really good news here. As we practice paving these new pathways, getting out our shovel and digging a little bit, what happens is the brain actually begins to myelinate them. It sends in its own helpers to support the paving of that new pathway. So it's not just you and your shovel. This myelination serves as a coating for signals to be rerouted in this new intentional direction. And this coating ultimately will help create a slide so that not only are you creating a new pathway in this dense forest part of your brain, but you are actually beginning to create a slide that becomes easier for your brain to fire and wire down, to feel more and more of that intentional emotion that you want to feel. Eventually, that rough forest path becomes more like a smooth slide, a route the system can access with far less strain and effort. This is why practices, such as those in this anxiety series, they matter, even in small moments. They're helpful, even in small moments, because they literally can begin to help reshape these pathways to reorient the communication, the synaptic connections in the brain. Many people carry a belief, sometimes this quiet internal belief, that peaceful simplicity, the experience, the feeling of peaceful simplicity, is supposed to be the entire experience of life, or is not at all available to them in life in any way. There can be a belief that calm, ease, and predictability are the destination that you need to get to in order to feel better in life. Or for some, there's a belief that calm, ease, and predictability are completely impossible and can never happen and never be experienced. If that is you, you are not alone in this experience. And also, there are ways that we can begin to shift it. Because peaceful simplicity is not meant to be all of life. It's also not meant to be none of life. Peaceful simplicity is meant to be an experience in life, in moments, meaningfully, as a support, as a supportive part of life, a part that helps us navigate the rest of life when it becomes bumpy and turbulent, when the journey is challenging. The small moments of ease, whether we create them on purpose or nature presents them to us to notice and to embrace, they can become anchors. They can become opportunities for us to nestle in and to notice the feeling of peaceful simplicity right here in the now. Not as something that's completely unavailable or something that should be staying forever, but simply here and available to experience right here in the now. Experiencing these moments with more presence, with more awareness, with more of an embraceful spirit helps strengthen our system's ability to move through the parts of life that will eventually happen and feel messy and uncertain and overwhelming or chaotic. And here's a surprising truth. A life that is only peaceful and simple, always unchanging, predictable, without contrast, it would actually become stagnant. Not because simplicity isn't beautiful in and of itself, but because the human system, the human experience, needs variety to thrive, to grow, to evolve, to learn. Variety is what allows us to appreciate the calm moments. Variety is what helps us understand what we want more of, what we want less of, what we want to change in some way. Variety helps us clarify our values. When the variety becomes overly chaotic or out of control, us as humans can sometimes try to grasp for control. We want to get away from this out of control experience that we're having. But when we recognize that life itself is built on variety, it needs variety, this ebb and flow, a duality, something inside can soften. Peaceful moments can then come and go with that ebb and flow as they are meant to do. Peaceful moments can be felt and provide the nourishment that we need and desire. Challenging moments can become information, opportunities for growth or lessons learned instead of a threat. And the internal pressure to make every part of life become as simple as possible can begin to ease. As this lands in your body, in your system, notice what happens internally. Does something expand? Is there a sense of expansion with the idea that peaceful simplicity is meant to and allowed to be a part of life, but doesn't need to be all of it? Or does something constrict? Is there tightness? Is there an aversion? Notice how your body, how your system responds to this idea that the synaptic connections in your brain that are happening constantly, day in and day out, all night, while you're awake and while you sleep, they want to support your functioning through the ups, through the downs, and you actually can support them, can influence them, not by trying to control all of the uncontrollables, and not by trying to eliminate any stress, but by practicing intentionally some moments here and some moments there, an elevated emotion, perhaps of peacefulness, of peaceful simplicity, on purpose, and that truly allowing yourself to feel that in the here and now for a few moments on purpose is more than enough. Whatever you're noticing is arising in your body is wonderful information to be aware of. It's not your identity or some verdict. It's information the body is offering in this moment. Get curious. Is there any part of your system right now that's open to embracing, to practicing, to elevating the experience of peaceful simplicity just for this moment? Take some time. Notice if any part, even small, that's open to connecting with, to feeling, to experiencing some peaceful simplicity in the now, right here. Notice in your feet, your legs, your seat, your stomach, your chest, your arms, your hands, your neck, your head. Notice if there's any part that's open to connecting with, to feeling, to experiencing some peaceful simplicity in the now, right here. When you find the space in your body, simply allow your awareness to be there, to spend a few seconds with it. and to explore that internal landscape right here and right now, enjoying it, appreciating it, feeling it. And if you're unsure where that space in your body is, see if bringing your hand onto your heart and feeling the sensation of your hand pressing gently against your chest, where your heart beats day in and day out, beats for you every day and every night. Notice if having your hand and its warmth right there on your heart, bringing your awareness there, helps to deepen this experience for right now, right here. An experience of peacefulness, of peaceful simplicity, not because you need to stay here forevermore, but to help create a new pathway that feels better more often, that can be revisited, that can be paved, that can continue to be smoothed out and expanded. So when it's needed or when it's wanted, it can be there.